This is Dan Reecer. I'm VP of Growth at Acala and Karura. And today I'm going to be walking through what parachain slot auctions and crowd loans are, which are essentially what you need to launch a blockchain network on Polkadot or Kusama. I previously, before coming to the Acala team, I worked on growth and community at the Web3 Foundation, where I spent a lot of time and energy on launching Kusama and then launching Polkadot, and then had interest in moving up to the Parachain level, which is what brought me to the Acala and Karura team. First, I think it's helpful to start with some background on what Polkadot and Kusama are before we get into the details of parachain auctions. Many of you watching this may be aware of this, but as you can see on this slide, both Polkadot and Kusama are these multi-chain networks that provide, number one, security from an existing set of validators to any blockchain that connects to it. And number two, interoperability. So you can see these little pink lines that are trying to represent the kind of flow of data and value between the blockchains that are connected to Polkadot or connected to Kusama, as well as any network that is bridged to Polkadot or Kusama. So Bitcoin bridges are already being built, Ethereum, Cosmos, and many others will be connected to these networks. But today we're going to be talking about how do you actually connect a blockchain into Kusama or into Polkadot? Because unlike what we've seen with ICOs in the past and similar kind of token events, this is not a kind of an open platform where anyone can just launch a blockchain without any effort. This is a process where teams actually have to go to a significant amount of effort to win an auction against other teams who also want this slot in the network. It's kind of like an auction for a house. There's multiple people at that auction competing for that house. Same thing goes for these slots. It's like digital real estate on Kusama or digital real estate on Polkadot, which this early in the game, these are the first slots to ever be auctioned off. So the demand is very high. So what is a parachain slot auction? So this is what I just mentioned, where teams bid in an auction against one another in order to win a slot on one of these networks. The reason why teams like Acala and Karura are going to this level of effort to win a slot on these networks is because we don't want to have to recruit our own set of validators. We want to inherit the security through plug and play security on Polkadot and Kusama. We also want the interoperability between networks and the ability to exchange value and information with other parachains. These slots or these slots on both networks, they have a duration. So it's kind of like a lease that you lease an apartment or a house. On Polkadot, the lease can last up to 2 years, and the lease on Kusama is around 48 weeks, which is essentially a year. And what this does is it creates, it really aligns incentives for teams to deliver on what they promised in their white paper. Because as we saw in the past, you could write up a white paper, you could launch a website and raise $20 million, but the team was never held accountable for actually delivering on their promises. But in this case, teams, they have to offer tokens for their community as an incentive to provide them backing for this auction, which I'll get into. So the team actually doesn't receive anything from the community, any KSM or any DOT. They are actually incentivized to deliver value to their own network and their own token through their work and launching their network and providing value. One very important thing to keep in mind is that throughout this parachain auction and crowd loan process, the team never touches KSM or DOT. Anything contributed to back the team's bid is then locked in the Kusama or Polkadot relay chain for the duration of the slot. And then one of the best parts is these tokens are actually released back to the original contributors. I know some of these things may not make sense yet, but I'm about to get into what crowd loans are, and then it'll all start to come together. I'll run through this very quickly, but I've already mentioned several of these topics. Just really, this slide is meant to highlight the improvement on the old model of ICOs through this new concept of crowd loans and parachain auctions that Gavin Wood and many people who were previously on Ethereum learned from a lot of the mistakes that were made with that setup of ICOs and just the ability to enable some of these teams to scam their communities. With this, the team is held accountable for what they contribute, for creating value in their network. The original contributors get their principal back, the DOT or KSM that they use to back the team. The team can't run away with the funds, can't touch the funds, so it's ultra secure in that regard. The only trade-off, of course, is that anything that you contribute to a team to back them for their crowd loan or for their parachain auction has to be unstaked. So anyone contributing KSM or DOT is unstaking, so they give up the staking return that they may have been earning before. So parachain slot auctions, I sometimes have compared this to like a huge sporting event where you're going to the game or going to the match and you are driving your car and you need a spot to park. So maybe there's 5 spots right next to the stadium at the World Cup. So these are clearly going to be very high in demand. So let's just, as an example, imagine that these slots are auctioned off in the parking lot and the pink Range Rover wins the bid. They win with the highest bid in the auction against other people who also wanted that first slot. And then maybe they move on to the next slot. The second parking spot is then auctioned off to the next car. These are very high in demand slots right next to something that's, very high in value going to this match. Similar concept with Polkadot. Here in the bottom right, you can see I'm kind of bringing back that diagram of the network. What a parachain slot is one of those slots in the network. Both of these networks of Polkadot and Kusama will scale up to around 100 or more parachains, but we're just getting started this is now June 2021, we're just getting started with the first auctions. So when you're a team, you're going into this auction, you have 2 options for how to bid. You can bid with a single account if you as a team have a large amount of KSM or DOT, or what's most common is you can actually involve your whole community, and everyone in your community who wants to be involved can actually back you with their KSM or DOT, which is helping raise your bid in the auction. In return, you would be essentially promising your community the distribution of your network's token for their contribution. So at the moment, Acala is launching our network called Karura, and KAR is our native token. So we've told the community for every 1 KSM that you contribute, we will distribute at least 12 KAR for your contribution. On Kusama, these auctions will happen every week. On Polkadot, every 2 weeks. And at the current moment, we're launching 5 parachains on Kusama. That will pause just for stability and observing the chains to make sure everything is stable. And then in the future, these will start to happen on a recurring and periodic basis. So this is the second option that teams have that I mentioned, which is gathering contributions from their community to help them to help back and raise the bid that they can put forward in their auction. These KSM tokens that are contributed are locked as soon as the team wins the auction, and then the native token is distributed to the team. So in Karura's case, we will be distributing everything up front, all the KAR, 30% will be liquid and transferable, and then 70% will be vesting over the period of that 48-week slot. Let's see, at the end of the 48 weeks, at the end of that slot lease, all the original KSM is actually returned back to you as a supporter. And then again, just to keep hitting on this point, the tokens, the KSM that are contributed are never touched by the team. So here's the full process. You've got a crowd loan that opens up. This is how people can actually contribute to a team. That leads up to parachain auction, which is right now actually ongoing. We're in, I think it's day 2 of the current auction, of the first ever auction. If Karura wins this first one, we will then go on to launch our blockchain. We'll begin producing blocks, and then all of our DeFi applications can launch, and we will be in this slot for about a year. And then of course we'll renew that slot in 48 weeks. One question that I've got a lot is actually about the crowd loan. So this is actually in reality what it looks like. The crowd loan is actually open for every team that's competing in this auction for, I believe right now it's around like 35 more days. So what that allows teams to do is try to win auction 1. If they don't win auction 1, then they still have all that KSM in their crowd loan to use as their bid in auction 2. If they don't win auction 2, they still have all the KSM and can continue raising more KSM for auction 3 and so on. So it helps the teams a lot because it's a lot of work and effort to raise these contributions from the community. So it allows you to stay open with your crowd loan and participate in multiple auctions at once. In this case, you may have seen on Polkadot.js, one of the dashboards or main websites for the Polkadot ecosystem. It'll say the number of days that are left in the crowd loan, which right now is around 33 or 35. So if the team, in this case, doesn't win one of the first 5, then all the KSM is returned to the original contributors. So at the moment, Karura has around 410,000 KSM, which the moment is around $150 million. And this is all of the community support that we've gotten for our crowd loan. And in return, they will be getting their KAR distribution. There's also other Parachain teams, of course, that are raising KSM for their crowd loans. And this is all leading up to the beginning of the auction. So this is actually what it looks like right now. You've got Karura here with 410. You've got like Acala, Bifrost, Shiden, and Moon River all kind of as the top 5. And then several other teams are participating as well. This is where it says 36 days are left in the crowd loan period. And what happens next is all of these teams have raised these crowd loans, and it's essentially, you can think of it as like a pot of chips. At the beginning of this ending period, so after the first 2 days, which is kind of like a warm-up period, these teams will all essentially be automatically put all in as their opening bid. So if we have 410 at the beginning of day 3, 410K, that will be our opening bid in the auction. And then anything else contributed to Karura will then increase our bid. So what this shows here, these green arrows are kind of like showing you more KSM being contributed to our crowd loan, which then increases our bid. So let's just say that here the bid is increased to 420K, 450, 550, and then this team, hypothetical Parachain B, they get 55K, 85K, but at these levels, of course, Karura will be the highest bid at that point in time. And what happens then is at the end of this ending period, the Kusama relay chain or the Kusama code itself will randomly select a block at which whoever had the highest bid is the winner of the auction. So this ending period is very important because this is the period where any random point in time could be chosen at the end for who is selected as the winner. So as a team, you really want to be winning ideally at all times during the ending period because you never know when the winner is going to be selected until this day 7, the end of the auction, selects a winner. So in this example, this green bar is representing the snapshot or the block, the point in time at which the winner was selected. And here you have this 420K was the highest bid in the auction up until that point. So Karura would be selected as the winner. Another question that I get often is what happens for people who bid for people who contribute KSM after the randomly selected point in time. So although the winning bid was 420K, the Karura crowd loan in this example it garnered 550K KSM total. So all of that is honored. So anything contributed is locked and rewarded. So that would be 550K in this case. And the winning bid would be 420K. So that's a slight typo there. So 420K would be the winning bid in this case. And like I said, 550K would actually be locked in that crowd loan for 48 weeks. So this is to kind of wrap it all together. You've got Karura winning the auction, going live, all the KSM is locked, not touched by the team. 12 KR minimum, depending on the result, is distributed for every 1 KSM to the original supporters, which are starting over here. And then Karura goes live and launches on Kusama. Then at the end of the 48 weeks, the KSM is returned to supporters. So let's make this a little bit more real. I said if we win the auction, Karura goes live. This is actually a look at the Karura application layer. So we've got Karura as a blockchain platform with a lot of these different DeFi primitives or products built into the blockchain. And we've also built our own applications on our blockchain. And this is what that looks like. So you've got a Uniswap-like AMM DEX here with what will be KUSD, tokens like KAR, KSM, what have you. More pairs will continue to launch over time. We also have a stablecoin borrowing mechanism similar to what you may have seen with MakerDAO. Liquid dot staking or liquid KSM staking on Karura's case will be the ability to stake KSM and get a liquid receipt for that, which is a liquid token that you can then go and use to, for example, provide collateral to get a KUSD loan. And then last example is the liquidity providing. So you can provide liquidity to different pairs on Karura and earn additional rewards on that. Now, this is just to reiterate the point where if a team does not have a successful first auction, the crowd loan remains open and they can continue to attempt additional auctions over time until the crowd loan actually does end around here after the 5th auction. I already pointed that out. So let's move on to Polkadot just really quickly. So everything that I just mentioned was around Kusama. This is all going to happen in the almost exact same fashion on Polkadot. And Acala will be going and attempting to win the first slot on Polkadot. So same flow. The only main differences are that the slot for Polkadot and for Acala will last for 2 years versus in Karura's case on Kusama it would last for only 1 year. And then the auction duration, this hasn't been confirmed yet, but I would expect the auction duration could be around 2 weeks instead of a 1 week auction. So we'll just have to wait and see for the announcements around that. One additional question that people ask is, you've mentioned that these parachain slots last for a year on Kusama or 2 years on Polkadot, but what happens at the end? The blockchain can't just die and fall apart. There has to be a way to actually renew that lease. So there's going to be a few ways people can actually proceed from this point in time. So first, a team could actually do another crowd loan. So you can, after your your 1 year slot on Kusama, Karura can do another crowd loan. What we hope to get to is the point where we can self-fund additional crowd loans or additional auctions and our bid in the auction with our own treasury. So there's going to be a Karura treasury and an Acala treasury, and those will be built up through transaction fees and different protocol fees within our DeFi hubs. And then that will allow us to bid ourselves instead of having to do another crowd loan in the future. So this gets us to the point of self-sustainability of the networks. And then number 3 here, this is a kind of a more technical topic, but there's another way to kind of downgrade your chain if you don't want to, or if you're not able to win an auction in the future. You can continue operating your chain just with a little bit less frequent access to the core relay chains as you would otherwise with a parachain. So that's it. Hopefully you learned something new around Polkadot and Kusama parachain auctions and crowd loans. I know it's a lot to wrap your head around, and I have to go fairly quickly to get this into the time frame that I was given. But if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter. I'm kind of frequently putting out content around these auctions, and there's going to be a lot of action, to follow over the course of the summer and the next 2+ years as all this stuff kind of begins to take shape. So if you have any interest in learning more about the DeFi hub of Polkadot, which is Acala, or the primary DeFi hub of Kusama, which is Karura, feel free to take a look at this link. It's just aca.la, Acala/all-links. Thanks for having me. Hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. Bye.